The Last Emergency Exit. An existential murder mystery. He felt the emptiness inside, to which he just could not relate, brought on by a simple twist of fate. Bob Dylan, Simple Twist of Fate. Act 1. The Accident of Fate. Rome was already black when Julian Black slipped out the back of the Hotel de la Ville, not through the lobby, not past the marble columns and the candlelit bar where other famous people sat in the pleasant fiction of their own normality. He went through the service door, the one that smelled of grease and wet cardboard, the one the night porter held open without comment and without surprise. Julian did not thank him. There was nothing to thank. He leaned against the wall, he lit a cigarette, and breathed in Rome and smoke and the distant rod of the Tiber, and above him the city climbed toward Trinità dei Monti with the magnificent indifference of something that has survived too many disasters to take any single human being seriously. Success doesn't make noise when it kills you. It empties you slowly from the inside until nothing remains but a shell, a shadow on a leash, walking the length of its contract. He was 33 years old, 92 million followers, a platinum record in 12 markets, and there in the service alley of an €800 a night hotel, he could not construct a single reason to go back inside. The thought sat in his chest like a stone. He smoked down to the filter and didn't notice. He dropped the cigarette. He was about to turn back toward the door when movement caught the edge of his vision. She was across the narrow street, standing beside an old black sedan, dented, anonymous, the kind of car that belongs to people who use cars rather than display them. She was opening the driver's door. She moved with a quality Julian had not encountered in years. The calm of someone who knows exactly how much space she occupies in the world, no more and no less. Around him, people always became something else the moment they recognized him. They became audience. They became a performance. They forgot the ordinary animal shape of themselves. She did not. She looked up, and her eyes found his with the easy courtesy reserved for strangers. For the man you pass on the stairs, the face you clock briefly through a cafe window. She saw a man, just a man, leaning against a wall at 11 o'clock at night. Her lips moved. She smiled, the smallest possible smile, and she said hello. One syllable, unstudied, gone. Then she was in the car. The engine coughed twice. The black sedan dissolved into the Roman traffic and the night closed behind it without a seam. Julian stood still. His heart was doing something unfamiliar. Beating hard, beating the way it beats when the body remembers it is alive, when it realizes it has not simply been a logo with a pulse. He raised his hand. A taxi stopped. He told the driver to follow that car. The driver raised one eyebrow, said nothing, and pulled into traffic. Rome had seen worse. Act 2. The Metaphysical Crime. Piazza at Navona was still awake. The cafe tables spilled yellow light across the cobblestones. A mime in an Augustus costume smoked against the base of Bernini's fountain with the air of a man who had long since stopped believing in his own disguise but hadn't found a better one. Somewhere behind the crowd, a violin played something just out of tune, and the melody dissolved upward into the steam, rising from the grates like the breath of another century. The black sedan was gone. Every step I take costs someone, somewhere, thousands of pounds. If I disappeared tonight, an entire ecosystem would collapse. I don't have employees. I have keepers. Julian walked. He had his hood up and his chin down, and the tourists at the fountain photographed the light on the water and did not look at him. And he understood with sudden physical clarity that invisibility, this ordinary invisibility, the invisibility of no one in particular, felt like cool air on the skin. He had forgotten it was possible to move through a city and not be consumed by it. He kept walking. He did not know where he was going. That, too, felt like something. Trastevere was different. Trastevere was old in the serious way. not performatively old, not preserved for tourism, but old the way bones are old. The lanes narrowed and curved and folded back on themselves, and the smell of mold and ivy and laundry hung in the air with the permanence of centuries. Cats moved through the shadows like small gods attending to their own concerns. The cobblestones were uneven underfoot. Somewhere above, a window was open and a radio played something in dialect and far away. He saw the sedan parked near a peeling doorway. He went through the archway into the courtyard beyond. What he found there rearranged the air around him. A clay pot lay in pieces on the stones. Terracotta, red, shattered with the urgent carelessness of something knocked over in haste, rather than dropped. Beside the shards, footprints overlapped in the dust. 2 pairs, possibly 3, the kind of pattern left not by people walking, but by people struggling or arguing or trying to leave. And against the far wall, half tucked under the lip of a drainage pipe as though the wind had put it there, a scarf. Gray wool, a thin stripe of blue at the border. He picked it up. There was a stain on one side. Dark, palm-wide, still damp at the edges. Blood. He crouched there on the Trastevere cobblestones with the scarf in his hands, and something happened to him that was quiet and complete. He began to forget he was famous. The thought arrived not as a revelation, but as a physical sensation, the way you feel a coat slide from your shoulders in a warm room. Beneath the coat there was only a man who did not know this woman's name, did not know where she lived or what she read in the mornings or whether she was afraid of the dark. He knew one thing: she had looked at him and seen a stranger, and the stranger she had seen had been enough to warrant a smile. Not a performance, a smile. He stood. He walked toward the Tiber. Marcus was leaning on the river wall when Julian arrived, the black water running 30 feet below him, the city reflected in broken pieces on the surface. His overcoat was camel-colored and precisely cut, and he smoked with the controlled ease of a man who has decided to allow himself one vice and intends to perform it well. He did not ask how Julian had found him. Julian did not ask how Marcus had found him. Julian told him about the scarf, about the blood. Marcus listened. Then he looked at the river for a long time before he spoke. He told Julian to listen carefully. He reminded him of the interview in the morning, the flight to Tokyo, the 11 days to the tour. He said this with the patience of a man explaining a contract to someone who has already signed it. Julian said he didn't care about the tour. Marcus said he knew. He said that was precisely the problem. He turned then, and his face in the lamplight was not cruel. It was something worse than cruel. It was convinced. He told Julian that he was tired, and that being tired was acceptable, but that tonight Julian was not Julian Black the man. He was Julian Black the brand. And brands, he explained, do not wander through Trastevere collecting bloody scarves like characters in novels that do not belong to them. Julian said she was a real person. Marcus said that all people were real. He said that was not the point. The river moved. A night heron passed low over the water. Rome held its breath with the easy patience of a city that has watched worse arguments on these same walls, in these same shadows, by this same black water. Julian walked. Marcus did not follow. He didn't need to. Act 3. The Death of the Soul. Dawn found Julian at the Gianicolo. The sky came apart in layers, black giving way to violet, violet bleeding into burnt orange, the orange surrendering at last to a pale and non-committal pink that Rome accepted every morning with the resignation of a city that has witnessed too many dawns to be impressed by one more. Below him, the rooftops spread outward in every direction. Domes, bell towers, terraces, television antennae, all of it still, all of it ancient and indifferent and entirely without interest in the grief of one man standing at a stone wall with a gray scarf in his hands. Marcus arrived 10 minutes later. He was holding an envelope, a plain one, creased along one edge as though it had been kept in a pocket for some time. Julian asked where she was. Marcus said she was safe, frightened but unharmed. Julian asked who had been with her in the courtyard. Marcus said two of his people. He said they were only supposed to move her along. Julian said, "The blood." Marcus explained that she had cut herself on a corner in the dark while she was trying to get away. He said it was nothing serious. He said she had left on her own eventually, once she understood the situation. Julian asked what the situation was. Marcus spoke slowly. He said, the situation was that she had been shown, clearly and without room for misinterpretation, what it meant to be close to Julian Black. He had explained it to her, not with threats, but with the plain arithmetic of celebrity. He had walked her through the math of what a single photograph would do, what a single story in the right tabloid would manufacture, what a summer of interest from that particular media machine would cost a private person with a life of her own. He had told her who Julian was, not the man Julian thought he was, but the entity Julian had agreed to become. She had taken the information and drawn her own conclusions. That, Marcus said, was not terror. That was clarity. Julian said he had killed her. Marcus said he had killed an illusion. He said he had killed the specific and dangerous idea that had risen in Julian's chest in that alley the night before. The idea that a smile from a stranger was a door, that the door could be opened, that on the other side of it there existed a life that still had room for Julian Black, the human being. That idea, Marcus said, was the most destructive thought Julian had had in years. Left untreated, it would have unraveled everything. The tour, the label, the carefully assembled machinery of a career that supported not just Julian but 47 other people whose rent was paid by his continued willingness to be what he had agreed to be. He said, "I didn't hurt a woman. I removed a splinter before it became an infection." Julian said nothing. There was nothing inside him organized enough to become words. Marcus set the envelope on the wall between them and walked away. His footsteps across the Giannicolo were measured and even and unhurried, the steps of a man who has done what was necessary and will sleep without difficulty. Julian opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded page, ordinary ruled paper torn from a notebook. The handwriting was small and slightly tilted, with one or two words crossed out and rewritten. He read it once, standing, and then read it again.
Julian, there are loves that don't require time. Only a single glance, and the accounting is done. But the world is a blind machine. It doesn't stop to watch us begin, and it doesn't slow down to watch us disappear. It runs on the noise of traffic and the light of stages, and it asks us to choose always between living inside it and watching it from a window. We were the right note in a song written in the wrong key. You saw me. I saw you. For that 1 second we were free. But freedom isn't a place where you stay. It's a corridor you walk through before the doors close again. Don't look for me in the streets of Rome. Look for me in that hello. That's where we'll stay forever, young and unknown, before fate decided it wasn't our turn yet. Be happy, if the fame allows it.
Julian folded the page. He put it back in the envelope. He stood at the wall for a while longer and looked at the city. Rome did not look back. It had watched Caligula at the edge of his own abyss. It had watched the Borgias count their enemies by candlelight. It had watched 1,000 men in 1,000 eras mistake their own importance for something permanent, and it had absorbed all of it without comment, without pity, without curiosity. A pop star on the Giannicolo at sunrise, holding a letter on ruled paper, was not enough to interrupt 2,000 years of patient silence. Julian put the envelope in his pocket. He walked down the hill. The car was waiting at the bottom. Dark windows, engine running. The driver did not speak. Julian got in. The door closed with the soft, expensive sound of a well-made cage. As the car moved through the waking city toward the airport, Julian opened the notebook he always carried. He found a blank page. He uncapped his pen. He wrote, Rome, a girl, a black car, a hello. He looked out the window. A man on a bicycle was delivering bread. An old woman was watering geraniums on a balcony 2 floors up. A boy was running toward school with his backpack bouncing on his shoulders. He wrote, "She didn't know who I was." And then he kept writing. Because the machine was still running, because the machine had always been running, because the machine did not pause for grief or for the particular loneliness of a man who had once been offered a door and had not been fast enough to walk through it. The machine took his pain and made it into verses. It took his loss and made it into a chorus. It took the most human moment he had experienced in years and prepared to sell it to 92 million strangers. The circle closed, and here, at the end, the question has to be asked. If he wanted to begin again, truly begin, strip himself of the name and the contract and the carefully managed image, would he be free to do it? The answer is no. And the answer is no in a way that goes deeper than circumstance. We are not free to begin again because we are made of our own history. Julian Black had signed his name to something larger than a contract long before any lawyer had been involved. He had signed it in the years of wanting, in the hunger of anonymity, in every small compromise that had seemed, at the time, like the reasonable price of a door opening. By the time the door was fully open, the man who had wanted to walk through it had been replaced, piece by piece, with something more useful, more legible, more profitable. The self is not a fixed thing you return to. It is something you build continuously, or something that gets built for you if you stop paying attention. Julian had stopped paying attention at 23. By 33, the architecture was complete, and the man inside it, the man who had leaned against a wall in Rome and felt his heart remember what it was, had no room left to expand. The freedom he had glimpsed in that alley was real. It is always real in the moment. But freedom is not a possession. It is a practice, and practices require time. And time was the one thing the machine had learned to consume completely, leaving nothing over for the life that runs beneath the career like a river beneath a road. Present, moving, invisible, gradually forgotten. Julian was not a villain. Marcus was not a villain. The machine was not evil. It was simply indifferent. And indifference, sustained long enough, produces the same results as malice. The car reached the highway. Rome fell away behind the dark windows. Ahead, the airport spread its lights across the flat morning. Julian's pen moved across the page. Somewhere above him, in the pale and ordinary sky, the sun continued its own indifferent ascent. He did not look up. Act